Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital. I'm your host, Andrew Snaith, here with my co-host, James Higgins and Robbie Cruz. And tonight we have a very interesting show planned for you. Got some news to discuss that's happened over the past week in the baseball world. Not exactly an exciting week, but some big signings and other trades overall were announced, along with some other interesting looks at the possible new collective bargaining agreement that is on the horizon for Major League Baseball. But before we get into that, just want to thank everyone for tuning in. Just a reminder, we are live here on WCUA every Wednesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. We will be on the air closer to 8 p.m. and off air closer to 9 now that we do have scheduling fixed, so it won't be a little bit after 8 anymore. Also, if you want to go ahead and find us on Twitter for where our shows are posted in podcast form the day or two after, that is going to be at @NatPastimeCap. That's at @NatPastimeCap. Go ahead, follow there for all the show updates and shows posted the day after. So with that said, yeah, let's get right into the news. We had two big pieces of news this week. Oh, I guess three if you count the hiring of a certain manager that just technically officially took place. But let's start with the big signing, and that is the 4-year, $64 million deal for Nicholas Castellanos joining the Reds for, in my opinion, what caps off what has been a fantastic offseason for Cincinnati.
They've been the only team in the NL Central that's been making moves. The Chicago Cubs haven't done anything. The Pittsburgh Pirates traded away one of their best players. The Milwaukee Brewers have been trading pieces away and letting pieces go. And the St. Louis Cardinals have done nothing except for lose Marcell Ozuna. The Cincinnati Reds are jumping in at the perfect time. They've already spent more on free agents this year than they did all of last decade. Because the Joey Votto extension did not happen when he was a free agent. It was before he reached free agency. I really like what the Cincinnati Reds are doing, and I think they're going to be right up there as one of the favorites in the NL Central, if not the favorite.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Honestly, I thought Castellanos was going to get more money in free agency. Castellanos was absolutely terrific last year with the Cubs after he got traded there. I thought that Castellanos could have at least gotten somewhat north of $80 million, but to me, he mostly signed this contract because of the opt-out clause after 1 year. I think he's kind of doing what Marcell Ozuna did with the Atlanta Braves, and he's going to bet on himself, but if he doesn't have a good season, he can just stay with the Reds. But if he has a good season, he can opt out and get more money next offseason in free agency. I was kind of surprised that the Reds were the team to give Nick Castellanos this money.
They have money to spend, and they're jumping in at a very opportune time in the NL Central when teams like the Pirates or Brewers are rebuilding, and teams like the Cubs and the Cardinals are standing pat. They're jumping in. They have the rotation. They now have the offense. They have a surplus of outfielders that they can go trade one for a bullpen piece or another starting pitcher if they feel the need to. Like, they're jumping in at an opportune time where they know they can take advantage of the weaknesses of the other teams and win the NL Central. The NL Central's up for grabs in 2020.
I really think it is, yeah.
And I like the Reds and the Cardinals definitely going to be the favorites.
Without question. Yeah.
But I was kind of surprised that it was Castellanos to the Reds. Like, the Reds already have a full outfield, so I guess that it looks like now they're dangling Senzel as one of the trade pieces.
I think that would be foolish for them to trade Senzel. He was a consensus can't-miss prospect when he was drafted number 2 overall out of the University of Tennessee in 2016. He dealt with a couple nagging, unlucky injuries in the minors. He dealt with the nagging shoulder injury last year, but you can't give up on a 24-year-old with that kind of potential. He moved full-time to the outfield from the infield. It was he wasn't great defensively, but he held his own, and it was his first time in his life he played in the outfield. You can't give up on Nick Senzel just yet.
So who do you dangle in that outfield then? You got four solid outfielders.
Jesse Winker.
I don't think Winker would have that much trade potential.
Right, but I'm saying that's the one that you're gonna have to bench him because you're gonna have Aquino, Senzel, and Castellanos.
Well, there's also even rumors, though, that I've been hearing because Aquino's, absolutely terrible finish to the year last year, that he could actually open up the year in the minors.
Right.
And that's a very big possibility.
Just to polish everything up.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, though. To me, Aquino's too big of a piece. Just with how great he was when he came up last year, to me, I just can't see him starting the year in the minors.
Yeah, honestly, that would surprise me as well.
He had a better overall year than him, but he kind of started and finished like Austin Riley before his LCL injury.
Yeah.
Austin Riley flashed in the pan, 10 home runs in his first 30 games, and then he really tailed off before his LCL injury in July. So Aquino, major league pitchers figured him out, and he's just got to polish everything up if he wants to be a middle of the order bat for years to come in the majors.
Yeah, without question. The show that he put on when he did first come up last year was absolutely insane.
Oh, he'll get it together. I just think he could benefit from maybe 3 weeks in the minors at the beginning of the year.
That's what I'm saying. And now that you have a guy like Castellanos, you can run with an outfield of Senzel, Winkler, and Castellanos and feel okay with keeping a guy like Aquino down in the minors for a couple weeks to polish some things up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a great deal for Castellanos because if he doesn't have a good year, he stays in and he gets a $64 million. If he has a great year, he gets a free agent agency market again at the age of 29, and he goes out and makes even more money. But I think for both sides, this was a fair deal. The Cincinnati Reds, they see where they are. They're jumping in at the perfect time after signing Moustakas, after trading for Bauer. They know exactly where they're at, and they know they can win the Central now. With the team they have put together, they can win the NL Central. I don't think that's a bold claim at all.
No, I don't think it's bold, although I do say for it to happen, a lot would have to go right with that bullpen.
I want to clarify. I don't want to say it's overly bold. It's not out there. They can win the Central, but yes, a lot of things have to go right. But that division's up for grabs because the other teams really haven't done much.
No, that's very true. The Cubs did make a signing the other day, though, of the absolute legend. Who was that?
Jeremy Jeffries.
That's who it was. Jeremy Jeffries, yeah. So, hey, they're doing something.
I will say, though, to me, the Reds are a piece or two away in that bullpen from being serious contenders in the National League.
I think so, too, because you have Iglesias in there who's still a very solid closer. He didn't have a fantastic year last year, but he's turned in.
Lorenzen will set up.
Lorenzen is great as a setup. I mean, he also can play the outfield on his days. He's not doing that, which is very cool. He had, 3 or 4 home runs last year?
Right.
Yeah.
But I do also think that people are sleeping on the Cardinals now just because they lost Ozuna. Yes, they haven't done anything. Yes, they lost one of their middle-of-the-order bats, but they're still returning a very good team, a team that won 91 games last year and made it to the NLCS.
Oh, for sure.
And Jack Flaherty is going to be another year older, ready to lead that rotation. They're still going to have Paul Goldschmidt. This is not a team that should be counted out for, and there's still time for them to trade for someone or to make moves.
Definitely, without question.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a big blow losing a guy like Ozuna. But honestly, like you said, you just got to sit here and wonder. I mean, it seems like the entire NL Central has just sat there and done nothing this entire offseason.
Except the Cincinnati Reds.
Reds.
Exactly.
I remember one of the first big signings of this offseason was Moustakas when he signed that big deal to play second base for them. And they just kept the foot on the throttle. I mean, we talked to us before here. Cincinnati already has the absolutely fantastic rotation after acquiring Gray last year, after acquiring Bauer, after already having a guy like Castillo and getting a guy like Miley to round out that rotation this year.
That's another good signing. 2 years, $15 million.
Yeah. It was a very good signing of Wade Miley.
That's right.
Sclafani is the number 5 guy who was supposed to be a pretty high touted prospect.
They've spent their money wisely this offseason.
I would say so.
They really have. They're really fielding a good team.
And the Reds have always been sort of an offensive-based kind of team, it seemed to me, in at least the years that they were really good in 2010, 2009. And I think it makes sense. They're playing to what their ballpark gives them an advantage toward, which is big home run hitting guys. And if they can just get that production out of their guys they sign, like Moustakas, like Castellanos, who will undoubtedly do well in the Great American Ballpark. But also, I think a key to that is going to be a bounce back to return to form for Joey Votto. I was just going to say that
Joey Votto needs a bounce back
Votto needs
here.
to come back to form without question. If he can come even close to what he was, that's going to be a
in
very
all 3
scary
categories,
lineup.
Average power and on base.
Yeah.
He needs to return to the pre-2019 Joey Votto.
I agree. Yeah, Joey Votto, as he was just getting older and older, just couldn't putting up great season still. I mean, I think it was up until 2018 when he had that weird season where he only hit 11 home runs. Before that, he was still consistently getting an almost 400 on base percentage.
Yeah. Well, he still had that over 400 on base percentage in 18. Last year is where everything really started to dip. The strikeouts were higher than what we're used to seeing from Joey Votto. But if give Votto a full off season in the lab, I think he can figure out his issues. And I'm not saying he's going to be peak Joey Votto again, but if they can get half of the 18 Votto in 2020, better than what they got in 19. If he's hitting 5th or 6th in that order, that's a deep lineup there.
What was the year? It was 16 or 17. He got top 3 in the MVP
2017. He finished second to Stanton. He only lost by 2 votes.
Yeah, he had an absolutely insane
36 homers. Yeah.
Honestly, I think that if Joey Votto isn't even performing that well, I still think that Reds lineup is good enough to compete.
Oh, it's very good.
Oh, right. No,
it's
absolutely
so deep.
It is.
I mean, you got 5 or 6 solidified hitters in that lineup. That's enough to do damage.
But like you were saying, a lot of things
well.
need to go right, and I think one of those things that need to go right is a bounce back from Votto.
Yeah, and honestly, a bounce back from Votto would also make a lot of things matter less as well. I mean, you talk about that bullpen, which is obviously an issue. That means a lot less if you have a lineup that has a almost full-power Joey Votto in it. I mean, you can look at teams throughout history have been based on offense that have been, had less than great bullpens. I mean, just look at the Nationals this year.
I think another thing to keep an eye on is A, Eugenio Suarez, will he hit 49 homers again? And B, how will this injury affect him early in the season?
Yeah.
Shoulder injury,
suffered in a swimming pool. He should be ready to go by spring training, though, right?
No, they said near opening day. He's going to miss the majority of spring training, I believe.
So that's big.
So, yeah, no, it really depends on if it'll hinder him in the first month of the season. Like the weather's not going to be warm. We don't know how he's going to recover, if he's going to need any time in extended spring training or in the minors. So we'll see how this impacts Suarez, and then we'll see how it impacts him in the field with his throws across the diamond at first. We'll see if they if they have another internal option to start the year at third base. If Suarez cannot start the season on the major league roster, because that's the best.
You could put
bat in their
Senzel
lineup.
back there at third base if you really wanted to, couldn't you? Because he was.
Senzel's very versatile.
Right.
He came up as a shortstop.
No, he came up. Yeah. You could. But like, I don't think you want to mess with him at this point. I
No,
think
you want to keep him as an outfield.
Keep him in the outfield unless
Yeah.
you're moving him back full time. Because
Yeah.
that infield right now is a logjam.
Yes, I agree.
You already have Moustakas moving from third to second. I don't think you need another guy that's out of place.
Well,
Yeah.
Moustakas played second base last year, didn't he?
He did for a little bit.
A little
yeah,
bit,
yeah.
but this is the first time in his career he's really been full time.
And their full-time shortstop's still Freddie Galvis, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good for him. Good for Freddie. He's still a consistent 20 home run guy. I think he's done it 3 years now
Mm-hmm.
at short position, playing fantastic defense. Better win a Gold Glove before his career is up. Let me tell you.
No,
something.
last year was Jose Iglesias.
It was, but he's a free agent. And
Yeah. No, I'm just
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
last year was Iglesias.
Well, I
yeah.
think him and Galvis switched off because
Right,
remember
that's right.
Galvis was acquired at the
It was
deadline.
mostly
Yes, from
Iglesias,
Toronto.
though.
Yeah, from Toronto. Yeah.
Even though he was signed to that minor league contract, he was just going off for the Reds.
Yeah, he really was. Iglesias had a fantastic year. And he signed really late last year. It was almost into March when he signed with the Reds, and that was a really good under-the-radar pick. It worked
Signed
out
with
really
the
well
Orioles
for
this
them.
offseason.
He did. I think he'll be their starting shortstop, correct?
Yeah.
That sounds about right. I don't know who else
Maybe
would
Richie
be.
Martin.
Nah, it could be either. I mean, honestly, if you have a guy like Iglesias there, I would assume that you'd be starting him. They also they got rid of VR, but they replaced him with someone, didn't they? They got someone else, I believe. I don't even remember who it was. I guess that infield is looking like a combination of Richie Martin, Jose Iglesias, and
Maybe
who the
they
heck's
moved
at
Martin
third
to
base?
second base, and then
They could do
started
that.
Iglesias
Yeah.
Either one of them
shortstop.
could play
Because
second base.
Iglesias signed another minor league deal.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah,
By
that
the
could
way,
go
the
either way.
Orioles signing Wade LeBlanc. How
They
about that?
did. They're
Yes.
signing left-hander Wade LeBlanc. There's another piece of news.
He's
that
going to
happened
make
this
the
week.
major league rotation because right now they only have 3 pieces in that rotation.
Yeah, and one of them is not Dylan Bundy because he's a member of the Los Angeles Angels. Oh, Cobb, that's right.
Yeah,
Cobb
and then
is still
you
on
got
that
Wade
team.
LeBlanc.
Wade LeBlanc.
So they have 4 starters now.
He'll make it, sure. I don't really know. I don't know. What do we think? You think they win more or less games than last year? Because I think it's really hard
What,
to
they
say
win
that the Orioles
54
got better.
last year?
Yeah, 54, yeah.
I'll put my over/under at 52.5.
I'm going to say
That's
less. Jonathan VR was pretty valuable.
They're winning
times
more.
last
They're
year.
winning more than 47 in 2018, but they might win less than what they did in 2019.
They're going to win 36 games. If
Okay,
you
there is no way
you
they're
remember where that's
breaking.
from, Andrew?
Yes, I remember where that's from.
Well, shifting to another team that's really making moves this offseason, coming off a very impressive 85-win season in 2019, the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yes, Arizona Diamondbacks this week making a big trade. Always throughout this offseason, we were hearing talking of Starling Marte, whether he's going to go to the Padres. The Mets were discussed heavily, but no, Starling Marte traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks for their prospects Brennan Malone and Leover Paguro, I believe it's pronounced.
Yep.
Honestly, I thought the Pirates were going to get a little bit more than what
So
they
did
got
I.
for Starling Marte. Like, they were asking a lot from the New York
Well,
Mets.
here's what I think happened with that. I think they went ahead and realized that they conceded the fact that for Marte they were going to get mid prospect guys from whatever team it is. They probably looked at the Diamondbacks mid-tier prospects and at the Mets mid-tier prospects and liked the Diamondbacks a lot more. So said to the Mets, hey, if you really want them, you're going to have to give us one of your top-tier guys. And they weren't willing to do that, so they went ahead and got the mid-tier guys from Arizona.
I've read that the guys that the Diamondbacks gave up, they have really high potential, but there's also a big chance that they're a bust. So they're saying that you could either get a superstar or you could just get another Luis Brinson out.
Yeah, no,
That's kind of what I read.
Malone was the number 33 overall pick in 2018, so the potential is definitely there. But going back to Marte, I think Arizona is the perfect fit for Marte because A, he's got 2 years of club control left at a good price, $11.5 million this year and $12.5 million in 2021. The Diamondbacks are in that win now mode. They won 85 games. They haven't had a losing season since 2016. They offloaded the money with Greinke, so they have money to spend. Lavello is a great manager, and that division, I'm not saying it's up for grabs with the Dodgers, but there is now a clear-cut second-best team in that division.
Yeah. And there was not before this trade was
Right,
made,
and now both the Diamondbacks and the Padres are really up
Don't
there.
forget they also got Bumgarner as well to
Yeah,
solidify the rotation.
no, exactly. The Diamondbacks have had a very good offseason. They've made moves. They're a dangerous team now.
So is Marte does that mean that Ketel Marte is going to go back to the
He's
infield?
full-time going back to the infield, yes, to answer your question.
Because I heard
Ketel
that people
Marte.
were saying that Starling could move to left field, but you can't do that. You got Dan
No.
Peralta out there, and then in right field you got Cole Calhoun.
No.
So
Ketel Marte is full-time going back to second base.
That's really interesting because I'd assume then they keep shortstop Nick Ahmed, right?
Correct. He's
Yeah.
won 2 Gold Gloves in a
Yeah,
row.
yeah.
and-
So I'm assuming that Eduardo Escobar is just going to be the
Third
odd man
baseman?
out.
Third baseman.
Third base?
Jake Lamb will be the odd
Jake
man
Lamb,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, Jake Lamb would be the odd man out because you can't make Escobar the odd man. He just hit 35 home
They're
runs.
not benching Escobar. It'll
No,
be
He
Jake
was
Lamb.
fantastic
But
season.
Jake Lamb's been injured since his All-Star year in 17.
Jake
Yeah.
Lamb is Brandon Jury 2.0.
You think
He's going
so?
one out. Yes.
So-
yes, he's got too much talent and potential to be a bench player.
Who is their first baseman, by the way, then? Because Lamb can play
Christian
first.
Walker.
Christian Walker.
Is it Christian Walker still? That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but
He's good, by the way.
He's fantastic. Yeah, he actually grew up in just down the street from me in Royersford. He grew up in I don't think it was Collegeville. It was one of the areas. It might have been Westchester, Pennsylvania. But yeah, very close to me. Christian Walker, fantastic to see him doing well.
Oh, absolutely. He had a good year last year, and I think Arizona's really coming into form. They tailed off in September, but they were in the hunt for a while, and they really shouldn't have been in the hunt last year. Torey Lavello always gets more out of his team than what he should get.
I think he's one of those managers who just kind of brings out that in his team.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I wish the Red Sox kept him instead of letting him go. But Luke Weaver's going to be back.
That's right. They did get Luke Weaver.
Yeah, Archie Bradley should have another strong season out of the pen. They're gonna have a good season. Like, they won 85 games last year. They've added a lot of talent to that team. I think they're definitely going to be in contention for the second wild card.
Honestly, though, I think it's going to come to a point where there are a lot of things are going to have to go their way with other teams because, like we said on the show last week, we very well could be looking at a wild card that has two teams from the same division, namely the NL East. Yeah.
Imagine if the Padres get Mookie Betts, the NL West is going to become pretty competitive.
The NL West, it will still be not nearly as competitive as the NL East, though. But yes, it will be up there. I don't think Mookie Betts makes the Padres that much more of a threat than
Mookie Betts is a 7-WAR player.
Yeah, he's a good player, but is that really putting the Padres into the playoffs alone? And also, just to quickly talk on this, because I don't want to harp too much on Mookie Betts. I know there were some rumors this week about his contract status, how he was offered 10 years, $300 million, and countered with 12, $420.
That's Mike Trout money, and nobody deserves Mike Trout money except for Mike Trout. Mookie Betts is a top 5 player in baseball, but he does not. Nobody deserves more than $400 million besides Mike Trout. That's bottom line.
But honestly, just going back to that quickly, I don't really see. Again, he's Mookie Betts. Yes, this makes sense why the Padres would want him. But unless you're trading for him and have a guarantee that he's pretty much going to extend with you guys, I don't see why you would give up all that prospect for 1 year because, let's be honest, the Padres are not a Mookie Betts away from winning the World Series. They're just not. They're not. I don't even think they're Mookie Betts away from making the playoffs.
The problem, it's still their bullpen.
The
Padres bullpen's
the
abysmal.
bullpen is absolute trash. Do they still have Craig Stammer, or did they lose him?
I think they still have
They still have him, and they do have Kirby Yates, but that's about it. They did sign Drew Pomeranz to that big deal.
Yeah,
and I know they really like
$4 million.
Pomeranz, but at the same time,
the rotation's not
great.
I think if they traded for Mookie, I could see them making the playoffs. I don't see them making the World Series. Absolutely not.
If the Padres go out and get Mookie Betts, I'm going to say that they just fall short of the wild card slot because I'm still going to say it's going to be the Nationals and either the Diamondbacks or Phillies, and the Padres will fall just short. And maybe the Cubs are in that argument too.
Yeah, that's very fair. I think, honestly, I don't see a situation where at least one of the wildcard teams isn't an NL East team. I just think it has to happen.
The NL East will have 2 teams in the playoffs this year, maybe even 3.
Yes.
But no, but I do like what the Padres have done this offseason and like projecting themselves to be in a good position in the future because at some point the Dodgers window is going to close and it's going to be open for teams like the Diamondbacks and teams like the Padres. And the Padres have a lot of good young prospects. They have a lot of prospect capital and they have good major league talent already on the roster with Machado and Tatis. And they have Tatis under club control for 4 or 5 more seasons. So like I like what they've done. I like how they've set themselves up. And acquiring Mookie would be huge for them, but it would be a lot bigger if he had 2 years left. Like because 2020 is not their year.
No, exactly. But I do think it's nice how we see teams like the Diamondbacks and Padres in that NL West realizing that once that window's up, they're going to be right there, ready to go ahead and pounce on it and try to make the playoffs.
They're already ready. The Dodgers window is just still open. That's their only problem.
It's just that they still have too much talent. But once they start collapsing there, Diamondbacks and Padres are going to be knocking on the door.
Dodgers are going to start collapsing pretty soon. That team's getting pretty old.
Yeah, they're going to be losing a lot of their pieces pretty soon.
Yeah.
So
they still do have a lot of young talent, though, which is good for them.
Without question. And then, of course, the third biggest news thing of the week was just officially confirmed about an hour ago. There was rumors about it being confirmed about a day ago from Bob Nightingale. Of course, he jumped the gun a little bit on announcing it officially. But that, of course, is Dusty Baker being hired to manage the Houston Astros. I think all around, a lot of people agree that this is a good hire and just a good kind of just face for the franchise right now in troubling times down there in Houston.
Well, I think it's good in the sense that he's always been able to bring guys together, bring a clubhouse together, connect with his players. He knows how to win ball games in the regular season, get your team to the postseason. But on the other hand, it's like you know what you're getting with Dusty. He's never won a World Series. He hasn't had playoff success, and for a team like the Houston Astros, like. With that roster, it's World Series or bust.
Yes, of
Cheating
course.
allegations aside, like this is a very, very talented roster, and it's World Series or bust. And so my thing with Dusty is that on one hand, it's a good hire. You get more of a traditional old school manager, maybe someone who like that who they wanted to break the analytics mold, all that, to get in there to unite the clubhouse. But on the other hand, it's like, you know what you're getting from Dusty in the playoffs, which is not much success.
However, still speaking on the analytics part, though, they do decide to keep interim manager Joe Espada back to the bench coach, who's a very big analytics guy.
No, that was big for them, I thought, that they did keep him. And I'm not saying Dusty is like an awful hire. It's not an awful hire.
No.
But it's not like a consensus it's not a consensus grand slam at all. I'd also say
it's safe.
It's safe. Yes, it's safe.
I was kind of confused by this hire. I'm not going to lie.
Why is that?
Crane went out and said that the Astros were going to remain analytically advanced like last week, and then he goes out and hires Dusty Baker.
That's fair. Yeah. That looks like we got a call here, so we're gonna go ahead and take that real quick. Hello, caller.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How you doing?
Hey, how are you? Who are we talking to?
Good. Loving the show the past couple weeks. All good stuff from you boys.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Question I'm throwing out. My roommate is a big Mets fan.
Okay.
Right.
Big in the NL East. Just kind of want like a season outlook maybe for the Mets. Maybe a little bit about the NL East. Just throw it out there.
All right. Season outlook for the Mets. That's a very interesting one. Robbie, you want to start us off with where you see the Mets finishing in the NL East this year?
The Mets will finish third in the NL East with 83 wins. I think
this specific. Okay.
Love the analysis.
This team post-trade deadline was the second best team in baseball. They added a pretty good bullpen piece in Del Matanzas, so I believe we'll have a bounce-back season. I believe that Edwin Diaz is not going to be that bad again.
Not.
I don't think he's going to be that bad. I've seen videos and he looks pretty good.
Well, I think the biggest thing with the Mets is it depends how the rest of the division plays out, because we saw it was a tale of two halves from the Mets last year. Awful first half, great second half. They have the roster in place. They hopefully have the manager in place now with Rojas. Hopefully the players get behind him.
And players, people really like Luis Rojas.
Right, absolutely. And they won 86 games last year. But that division is going to be a bloodbath from opening day till the end of the season, with the exception of the Miami Marlins. The Phillies, the Nationals, Braves, and Mets will all be beating up on each other. So it really depends on who comes out of those division matchups on top, especially in the month of September.
Now I'm going to counter with
James. If you had to give it to me, what do you think the NL East? Where do you think the Mets line up in the NL East? Who's winning the division?
I think the Nationals are winning the division, but I think the Mets will fit. I think the Mets and Braves will be like a game or two apart of each other. But I could really see the Mets finishing third, but being the second wild card. How about that?
Totally. Yeah. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, of course, Scott. Have a good one.
All right. Awesome. Keep it up, guys.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, that's a very interesting outlook by both you guys. I think that a lot of people, especially both you guys who just said they finished third, are forgetting that the Mets lost their second best pitcher to the Philadelphia Phillies and also tried to replace them with Rick Porcello and Michael Wacha. So.
Okay, timeout.
No, but like if you look at their roster, like they still have a lot of the pieces in place from
That's
last year.
fine. I want to take a look at the Phillies roster real quick though. Okay, with a healthy Andrew McCutchen, people are sleeping on that lineup. That is a very good lineup that only did not lose anyone, only added Didi Gregorius.
What do you think about the bullpen? No, I'm being serious.
The bullpen is going to be fine.
It's going to be awful.
Let me tell you something. The bullpen last year, I've said this so many times on the show, I'm going to say it again, lost every single person who was on the opening day starter thing to injuries besides Hector Neris, who, by the way, turned in a fantastic season, 3-6 with a 2.9 ERA. Couldn't have asked more from Mr. Hector Neris, who did a great job. But the bullpen is going to be completely healthy. We are going to have Sir Anthony Dominguez back, who is completely healthy. Adam Morgan, who was an elite lefty before he got hurt. You're going to have Ranger Suarez, who was very good out of the bullpen as a lefty. And you're going to have some of the other guys who are going to be good to go. Also, not including, of course, David Robertson.
Adam Morgan, who almost had a 4.00 ERA. You're relying on him out of that bullpen?
Adam Morgan is a fantastic lefty specialist.
He didn't give up a 4 ERA out of the bullpen.
He did not give up a single run until the mid of May last year when he got hurt, okay? He was fantastic last year, and I don't care that people don't know about it. All these relievers had to start somewhere. You think Andrew Miller started off as someone who was considered an elite lefty? Our bullpen's fine. I think a lot of people trash the bullpen because it's easy to say, well, look at their bullpen ERA in 2020 or 2019. It's because everyone was hurt, and we had guys like Jared Hughes and Nick Vincent filling in. Also, Jose Alvarez, another fantastic lefty. An ERA in the mid-threes and did his job. Lefty's batted 190.
I do think that one of the biggest keys for the Phillies is getting the production out of the back end of the rotation that they were expecting to get last year that they didn't get.
Yes, correct.
Like with Eflin and Pavetta.
Yes.
Like if those guys don't take a step forward this year, they never will.
No,
like
exactly.
the time will just never come, and that's really a big key because Nola's going to be there, but you really don't know what Arrieta's health status is going to be.
He'll be healthy, but we don't know how he's going to perform.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't know what he's going to be, and then
Nolan Wheeler are at least solids, and that's better than we had the last 2 years, which was when we had one solid. pitcher, so.
Absolutely. But also, like going back to also what I said about the Mets, the division is going to be a bloodbath.
Yes, of course it is. That's what I'm saying. It could literally be any one of those teams. If every one of those teams do better against each other, could be the division right there.
Right. All these teams are good on paper, but you never know how it's going to play out.
No,
that's
you really don't.
That's the beauty of baseball.
Anything could happen there. It's absolutely true.
I want to make one last point, though.
Sure.
I do like the Phillies lineup, and I do like that front end of the rotation.
Thank you.
However, that back end of the bullpen,
you guys just shouted for 5 minutes about it. I think we know where Andrew stands, and I think we know where Robbie stands. No, seriously. Like, yes, they need help, but yes, the bullpen's not going to be as bad as it was last year.
It's not going to be as bad, but
let's see where it is at the trade deadline. Like, if I can play middleman here, seriously, let's see where it is at the trade deadline because they're going to have pieces to go out and get help if they're in a position to make the wild card or win the division. If they're not, then you don't go make that move. But like, they're going to have half a season to figure out where they are and if the guys that they expect to produce are producing or not, especially with how tough that division is. It'll be very clear for the Phillies where they are at the trade deadline.
Thank you. I respect that.
These are preseason predictions, though.
They are. I agree.
So obviously, we can say, you can say that with anybody. Who knows? Yankees. James, let me finish. Okay.
All right.
The Yankees at the deadline could be 500. You never know. It's baseball, like you said. These are preseason predictions. My prediction is that the back end of the rotation is not going to hold up and that the Philly bullpen is going to choke. I think that Joe Girardi really helps the Phillies. I think that he's one of the most respected managers in baseball. However, I really like this Mets team because of the front end of that rotation. You never know. Rick Porcello could have a bounce-back season. I don't know. You never know. He's in Citi Field.
Yeah,
Citi Field, Pitchers Park. It's a pitcher's park.
Is it?
I do think something that will help him if the balls are unjuiced and he actually has seams. I think that will help him.
That's right.
I'm being serious because they had like no seams on it last year.
I am concerned.
Right.
I am concerned with that Mets infield defense. One of the worst rated infield defenses in baseball last season.
In 2018. Are you talking about the Mets?
Yes.
Oh, 2019. You're right.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm sorry. You're just trusting the Phillies again for a second.
No, Mets. I am concerned about the infield defense. After all, you saw how
it was pretty bad.
Poorly Marcus Stroman was with the Mets compared to what he was with the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
But to me, I think that I just see a lot of potential bounce-back candidates on the Mets, and I really like that.
That's fair. All right. Moving on. That's going to pretty much wrap up the news thing. There's a couple other minor signings that took place. Nothing absolutely crazy. But let's go into another discussion that I really would like to have tonight, and that's with the upcoming CBA agreement expiring around 2021. There's a lot of new changes we could see, and we've been seeing a lot of these changes talked about over the past couple weeks. A lot of them very interesting, a lot of them very bold. So just wanted to go through some of them and see what baseball could be looking like in the next couple, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 years. The main one, of course, that is already implemented and that will be happening this year, but this is not part of a CBA agreement, is the 3-batter rule. We talked about this a lot last year. I'm personally not a fan of it. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are not. Some people are.
No.
Some people who are casual fans are fans of it because it's a whole, pace of play kind of thing. But personally, I'm not a fan of it. If there's a guy out there and he obviously doesn't have it, you shouldn't be forced to be in there for 2 more games.
No, I understand what Manfred's trying to do with the pace of play, but I don't like it.
No, it's absolutely terrible.
I also agree. I do not support this whatsoever. If he's going to say he wants to speed up the pace of play, there are many other ways to do it. This, to me, isn't one of those ways.
This is not the best way at all. No. Now, one of the changes that is being discussed and I think is going to be implemented this year as well, which I think is very cool, is the mic'd-up umpires. So if anyone hasn't heard...
just like the NFL.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Just like the NFL this year, what's going to happen is during replay reviews, the crew chief umpire is going to actually have a microphone connected so that the people listening in the stadium and the people listening back at home can hear the umpire's official word-for-word ruling of why they decided a certain play. I think that's very cool. I think it really just provides another layer of depth to the game, a little more, like interaction, like immersion, feels like you're there. And I think it's a very cool touch. I always thought that was cool when I was watching football. I don't watch a ton of football, but how the refs would always go ahead and explain the play to the people in the stadium. There'd always be the reaction, the boos,
fans can
and everything.
Actually be in the know, unlike now where they just point at a base and call them out or safe. And
Exactly.
We don't
They
really
show
know
it on the
what's
big
going
screen
on.
3
Yeah.
times. The fans all scream that he's safe, and then they call him out, and then it's over with. But I think it's a cool thing. Adds a little immersion to the game.
Absolutely.
Like
But please don't mic up Angel Hernandez.
I said. They're gonna have to if
I
they
want
recruit you.
to. No, I want to hear
I want
his
to hear Joe
interactions
West.
with the
Joe
fans.
West is mic'd up as
I
well.
want to
yeah.
hear Angel Hernandez and Joe West mic'd up and their interactions with the fans. They probably won't interact much, but they might.
Oh my gosh, that would be pretty funny. If they are crew chiefs indeed, which I believe they will be throughout the year, we will hear both of them mic'd up.
Although,
that would
how
be very
much?
fun.
I don't really watch much football. How much explanation do
They
the
give a
refs-
good amount of explanation.
Okay,
It's
so
a
they
good
will
amount.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess this is gonna go ahead and counteract with the 3-batter rule because pace of play is very important. We can't have umpires sitting there explaining stuff. We got to get this baseball game moving. Come on, guys. But yeah, so that's another one of the big ones. 3 of 4 here that I wanted to talk about. The third one, that's the National League DH.
I know you and I don't agree with
We
this
feel
one.
very passionately about this. We're going to try to keep it very civilized here. The report said that the NLDH could come as early as next year, although it's looking more likely to come within 2022, around that time.
After the CBA ends.
It seems like it's all but inevitable at this point. It really does that the DH would be coming to the National League. This is a very divided issue. I can't think of a more divided issue in the potential new CBA than this. There's been stuff about qualifying offers. There's been the other stuff we said. But DH, this is taking something that a lot of old-fashioned baseball fans and a lot of people feel very strongly about and do not like, and possibly making it to the entire MLB.
As I'm an old-fashioned person, as you've seen with my Hall of Fame ballots, but I love the idea of a universal DH. And I know you're going to bring up the argument, oh, you've only been watching AL baseball your whole life, which is not true, by the way, because my dad's a Mets fan, and I've seen a lot of Mets games in my lifetime.
I'm very sorry, by the way.
But at the end of the day, there are more pros than cons with this. Did you know that pitchers last season hit 124? That was their batting average.
Did you look that up before this?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
They had 7% of their at-bats were sacrifice bunts.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to bring up the argument of strategy and bunting, that was only 7% of the time, Andrew.
Okay.
You can also, with DHs, anybody can still bunt. You're not eliminating that.
Really?
The only thing that you're eliminating is the double switch. But to be fair, how often were Major League managers doing that? It wasn't that often.
Okay, when I said strategy, when I'm talking about, for
He
people who don't
didn't-
know, my argument for strategy being taken out of the game, because for the record, I'm against the NLDH. I see the positives of the NLDH, and I've come to accept the fact that it's going to happen, and I can see the positives, especially for my Phillies, which would be absolutely fantastic. We had a DH especially this year, because Jay Bruce could be in the lineup every day. But as a whole, as a baseball fan at heart, I'm not a fan of it, and it's because of the elimination of strategy. If you play the field in baseball, this is why I love baseball so much. If you play the field, you have to hit. You can't have anyone do it for you. That's why baseball is a beautiful analogy for the American dream.
So
you have
you
to
wanna
do
go
it
up-
yourself. Hold on. And when I say strategy, I don't mean the pitcher being strategic and bunting. That's not what I mean by strategy. What I mean by that is the manager perspective. A perfect scenario that I listed earlier today. Say you're in the 8th inning, you have 2 outs, there's 2 on, you really need to get that last out, so you bring in your closer. But at the same time, your pitcher's due up second next inning. The pitcher spot's due up second. You have to make that decision. Is it worth coming in so that then the closer would have to come in and then hit? Or do I not do this and just let him finish the inning so I can go ahead and just let someone else pinch hit for him? I think that's the big thing we have to be asking about here when it comes to NLDH. We actually do have a call here, so we're going to go ahead and take that real quick. Hello.
Good evening.
Are they there? Go ahead and hang up there. Looks like there might be a problem with the phone here. Sorry about that. If they do call back, we'll go ahead and take them there. It's a shame. Anyone out there who, if you did call, go ahead, try and give us a call back. We'll try and get you back on the air.
Well, I think the biggest thing that the universal DH would do is, I think the biggest thing for the MLB is it would be a revenue thing, because obviously offense puts money in, puts fans in the seats, right? People buy tickets, people watch more games on TV, and I think that would be the biggest benefit for Manfred and for MLB, and I think that's why they want to end up doing it.
Now, and a lot of people, I've also heard the argument that well, it would offset, the loss of jobs that happened maybe with, for example, the 3-batter limit, kind of eliminating the lefty-righty specialist thing. But at the same time, that's not offsetting jobs because they're two completely different things.
But I also think the NLDH can help extend careers of the guys who are on the back end of their career, and
Sure.
and they like right now they can only go to AL teams. Now it can open it up to the whole league. Teams are looking for that opening. They can have guys who are on the back end of their career who can still hit but can't really field, have a full-time spot on the team and pay them what like a much better salary compared to what.
I think
like,
that's
the
a very
part-time
good
salary
point,
guy
and I
would.
understand that argument because a lot of people, once again, the 31, 32s, a lot of people are hesitant to sign them because of their ability to play the field. This would eliminate that. That means there's 30 teams instead of 15 that'd be willing to sign you because if your bat if you still have a good bat and you can't play the field, there'd always be a spot for them there. So I understand the positives. I'm just very divided on it. I think it's something in baseball that it just really should not be changed, especially for NL. It's just so deeper in tradition that if you play the field, you should be able you should hit for yourself too. Overall, not a fan. I do see the positives from it, though, and I do think it's going to be happening within the next couple of years here, unfortunately.
I have a quick question, though.
Sure.
Is a casual fan going to want to see a DH or a pitcher hit?
I'll counter that with the question, why is Rob Manfred and baseball in general so concerned with marketing to the casual fans and
Because
just
you
neglecting...
you want to improve upon ratings.
You want to improve upon the ratings? So you
Yes.
think just getting a DH in the NL is just going to magically improve upon the ratings?
You don't think that it's going to help the ratings at all?
I don't really think it becomes a
It's
question
going
of
to
beta.
help the ratings.
I don't think it becomes a question of ratings when it comes to a question of the history of the game. You're taking something that's been in the game since the very start and you're just eliminating it, like pitchers hitting. Like, can you
Sometimes-
imagine that? If this happens, we're going to have our children grow up never knowing a time when pitchers hit. That's insane to me.
Sometimes
The
you
way I've
need
been raised is
change.
always the pitcher hits. He bats ninth. Of course, he hits eighth if you're weird and you're Gabe Kapler or Tony La Russa. But the pitcher, he bats ninth. If you want to pinch hit for him, that's fine, but that's part of the game. You burn up your bench. You have to make bullpen decisions around that.
Andrew, the game of baseball has to change sometimes.
The game of baseball has to change?
Yeah.
Is this
If
a
the
way
game
that
of
it has
baseball-
to change, though?
if the game
It's
of
not
ba-
fine right now?
Is baseball right now the same as it was in 1920?
Of course it's not the same as it was in
Exactly. There are
1920. We
times
don't
where
use
the game
gloves
of
that are the
baseball is
size of our
changing.
hands anymore.
The game of baseball is constantly changing, and now's one of the times where ratings are slightly going down, and you need something that's going to bring the average fan back to the game, put their butts on the seats. The NLDH will help them. Case closed.
All right, fair enough. I think we both know
All
where
right,
we
I
stand
think
with
Robbie
that.
and Andrew
Yes.
stand on one
Yes.
side and the other.
There we go.
Looks
We
like
have
we
a
have a
caller
call.
back in. We're going to go and try and take him again this time and see if we can get him on the air. Hello, caller.
Hey, how are you?
Hey,
Good,
how
how
are
are
you
you?
today?
Good. Hey, what I wanted to talk about today was Jerry. I don't know if anybody knows this, but he spent 6 months in jail for misdemeanor failure to file tax return
Oh
back in
wow.
2009.
Okay.
Who was this again? It was Jerry who?
Jerry Koonsman, I think Koosman.
Okay,
He was a
yep.
lefty.
Yes.
He was
Mhm.
a lefty. They say he was the best left-handed pitcher who ever pitched for the Mets.
Okay.
What was interesting was, so in 2009, which is the 40th anniversary of the great win, he goes to prison
Mm-hmm.
for failing to file tax returns, which is actually a misdemeanor,
Yeah.
which means that, so it's not a felony, right? So you can still carry a firearm and do things like that.
Right.
At the same time, Doug DeCinces commits 14 felonies and doesn't spend a day in jail.
What crime do you think was worse?
Well, obviously, I think what Doug DeCinces did, I mean, he
Insider
cheated
trading, yeah.
investors
Right.
out of over $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
The tax due and owing on Mr. Coons
Right.
why did he get sent to jail? I think here's why. We talked about it a little bit last week, what's called the general deterrent.
Mm-hmm.
Member of the 69 Mets, it's the 40th anniversary,
Right.
goes to jail for not filing tax returns. That gets in the news.
Right. Absolutely.
So he acts as the deterrent effect. He acts as the example.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
In all fairness to him, he said that he basically got bamboozled by what they call anti-tax, professionals.
Right.
People who say the income tax is not constitutional. And
Right,
I don't
right.
think he's sophisticated financially.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So, but at the same time, Raleigh Fingers, who was also a member of the 69 Mets,
Right. Absolutely.
he ended up in Milwaukee playing for the Brewers on their 82 team.
Yep. That's right.
And then he gets on the Wisconsin Department of Taxation's basically most wanted list.
Right. But didn't he get off?
He did.
Did he
I
get
mean, I
off
think
for
he
a year?
eventually paid it.
Okay. Okay.
He didn't get charged, but he basically owed a bunch of money to Wisconsin tax authority.
Right. Okay.
So I don't know what it is about pitchers on the
I guess
69
that
Mets.
age of baseball players really brought some
Yeah,
financial
it seems like
fraud.
they were really into financial fraud back then. Yeah.
Maybe they were the first ones of that generation to really make money off the sport.
That's very true. The contracts really started getting much bigger in the 70s when Curt Flood finally got through and allowed
Became the first free agent.
Became the first agent, yeah.
Free agency and TV.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was my little aside for the week.
Right.
And I have the little hint for tomorrow's quiz.
All right.
Yes, for everyone listening,
Let's
we do
hear it.
have the official hint for tomorrow's quiz.
Finance
If you are listening,
226.
Official hint.
Finance 226
So-
listens, please listen up.
Sections 4 and 5. And so everybody has the information at the same time. A decrease in an asset is treated as what on the cash flow statement? An inflow or an outflow of cash? That's the hint.
All right.
right.
There you go. You heard it here first. Finance 226, your official hint for tomorrow's quiz. Right here on Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital. Thank you so much for calling
taking my
in.
call.
Thank you for
Thank you,
calling.
Professor
Take
Warren.
care.
See you tomorrow morning.
Have a great
Sure
rest of your
thing.
evening.
Thank you.
There you go. Once again,
Love the
anyone
historical
listening. Yes,
context
very,
of
very
baseball
cool.
players committing fraud.
There's so many that you just don't
Well, you're
realize.
also surprised that it doesn't happen now with how much more money they're making and how greedy some of these
Oh
players
my
are.
goodness, you
No,
really do.
Seriously.
Yeah,
though.
no, but
Yeah.
like you said though, back then the contracts were a lot worse, which I'm wondering if what led to a lot of this financial fraud, which is very interesting to think
and,
about.
And it also is crazy how it happened right after Curt Flood filed for free agency. Like
It
Doug
did,
DeCences
yeah.
happened in the late 70s.
How much did Curt Flood make in his first It was only like what, $20,000?
It wasn't that much.
No,
I think it was more than 20. It was more than 20.
It was something really small though.
Yeah, because wasn't the first $1 million contract Nolan Ryan?
It was
I
Nolan
wanna say?
Ryan.
Yeah.
It was closely followed by. He was the first $1 million contract. First person to make $1 million in a year, I believe, was Mike Schmidt. Sounds about right.
I thought it was Mike Schmidt. That's who I thought
I think he was the first to make $1 million a year, but
know-
Ryan had the first $1 million
Right,
contract.
right.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were talking about that. So each year. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
Mike
yeah.
Schmidt.
Yeah, so very interesting to see there. Thank you very much for that caller. Yeah, anyone listening, remember, if you want to get your exclusive scoops for your Finance 226 quizzes, listen in. Nation's Pastime and Nation's Capital. Not only do we have fantastic baseball talk here by our great group of co-hosts, but we also have that little bit of a hint there for the quizzes. So be sure to keep doing that throughout the weeks. To close out the show here, something I really wanted to do here, which since it was kind of a slow week, we didn't have a whole lot of stuff, and it was brought to my attention about the possibility of after the collective bargaining agreement possibly expanding and having some expansion teams, moving to 32 teams, moving the divisions around. And the two cities that I heard that were very, very being talked about a lot was Portland, Oregon, and San Antonio, Texas, which I believe is very
What about
interesting.
Charlotte?
Charlotte's also one of them, and then the other two I heard were Mexico City. I don't know if that would go very well, and also I believe it was not Vancouver. What's the other one? Montreal. But I don't know if they'd be able to support a baseball team. We do have another call here, so let me hold
as
that
we've
thought
seen,
real
they
quick.
haven't.
Yes, no, they have not. We're gonna take this caller real quick here.
No.
Hello, caller.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello,
Hello?
caller. Hi. How are you?
Hi, I just wanted to call in about what you were talking about with the designated hitter in the National League.
Oh,
okay.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I really liked the National League because of the fact that it doesn't have a designated hitter, because I think that it just makes the game more interesting, especially if you are a casual fan, because it adds a whole element of strategy that you
Oh,
just
that's a
don't
good take.
have
So you think it
with
makes
a
it?
designated hitter.
You think as a casual, it makes it more interesting to not have the DH?
Well, because it makes it. What is the greatest complaint that people have who don't watch baseball about baseball?
That it's too slow
That's
and not
boring.
enough action. Yeah.
It's too slow and too boring. So if you take that element of strategy away, it might, like, for a little bit, like, have a Jerry or not. Oh my gosh, what's his name? Mark McGuire effect. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Might have a
Yeah,
Mark
yeah.
McGuire effect of putting, and Barry Bonds effect of putting people in the stands short term, but it can really makes the game more interesting. And
Right,
I think
no,
that
absolutely. That's a great
if the
point.
league wants to build a fan base, I think that's a good way to do it, by making
But wouldn't you think
strategy important.
Wouldn't you think though that having somebody who hits 40 home runs a year and a DH would bring more fans in than someone who's bunting every at bat?
That's not necessarily true, first of all, but yeah.
Pitchers bunted 7% of the time last year.
And also, it's not guaranteed that you're going to have some guy who's hitting 40 home runs at your DH spot. There's a lot of teams that just DH whoever needs a day off. I mean, it's not necessarily there's going to be a set DH in every team. I think this is a fantastic point by the caller.
So
I
you're-
think that taking out the strategy would make baseball actually less exciting
So,
for the
Alex,
casual
you're on the
fans.
no DH side, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I am. Yeah, I'm on the no DH side.
Okay.
Thank you.
Honestly, I think it's a bummer that the American League does it.
Okay. Wow, that's a great point. Well, thank you for your call, Alex. We appreciate you calling in and having you on.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
rest of your night.
Have a good one,
Have a good
Alex.
night.
Very nice to see some support on my no DH side here. I think it's a good point. Casual fans might find it a little less interesting.
Can I play
if we
middleman
have a
here
thing.
again?
Absolutely, go for it.
Like I definitely do see both sides of it. I see the one side of it, the NL, the strategy, all that, the double switching, having your pitcher up late in the game, needing to pinch hit for him, all that. I see the other side of it, where home runs put fans in the seats, makes more fans watch on TV. You can have like the late 90s, early 2000s effect with all the home runs, people watching more offense in games, and that's what people like. I get that. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to come. The DH will end up happening, and
Yes.
That's no question.
I support the universal DH, but there are aspects of the NL that I really do like. Like I don't hate on the no DH stuff. I want to make that clear. Like
Yes.
I really do appreciate the tradition of the game, the strategy, all that, and what goes on in the NL. But if you look at where the game is going, I think it would really help guys at the end of their career who can't play in the field right now extend it. Like for me, I think that's the biggest thing, more so than additional revenue, more so than more guys hitting home runs. I think it helps extends the careers of guys who can't play 162 games in the field anymore. I think that's the biggest thing for me, and I'd like to see the veterans extend their careers and not have their market cut in half when they're in free agency.
And
or
I
whatever.
can't argue with that because I am someone who's much on the side of the players, as I think most people are, rather than the owners. Because in reality, the players are making a very small fraction of what Major League Baseball makes revenue-wise. So I think any chance to help them get a little bit of bigger contract, have longer careers, I think is fine.
Like
so
as
I
big as the
understand that.
salaries are, it's really only like the guys at the top of the top who are making egregious amounts, like
Yes.
35 million, 36 million.
Right.
Like I understand that that's the way the sport is going, and the top players get paid that. But I mean, there are also guys who play in the minors most of their careers and barely make anything, and then they play in the majors for a year, and then they have to go work a job after. Like I understand that the guys who make all that money at the top, like I wish they didn't make as much, but there are a lot of guys who just don't make a whole lot of money throughout their career, who could have their career extended by a couple of years, even if it's in their early 30s, just to keep hitting.
And even also something that coincides with the NLDH becoming a thing most likely is, remember the 26th player on the roster this year? That's something that's going to help a lot of more minor leaguers see the thing.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, that's the fourth one. Yeah. That's the other one. Yes.
The 26th man on the roster essentially has to be a hitter because you can only carry 13 pitchers on the roster. MLB does not want you.
Yes. They don't,
shelving
unless it's a
different
doubleheader, they won't let you do it.
They'll have a 27th man up for the doubleheader, just like it used to be a 26th man previously with the 25-man roster, and you can have a 14th pitcher. But they don't want you to keep reusing pitchers, keep using the service time thing with sending guys up, sending guys down.
The manipulation,
The DL got moved back to 15 days, right?
It did.
Yep, that's fifth thing. DL got moved back.
Excuse me, it's the IL, but yes, it is moved to 15.
IL got moved back from 10 to 15 days. Because a lot of teams were using that to give pitchers a day, skip a start in between starts and get them rest at an important time of the year, which I honestly didn't mind, but
no, I don't have a problem
they
with
cared
that.
about it too much, so they're switching back to the 15-day IL.
Yeah, so very interesting there. That's the last thing that's going to happen this year. Like I was saying before the caller, though, very, very interesting to see if we're going to look at an MLB expansion, though, because believe it or not, if we wait until after the CBA, it's going to be close to 30 years since we last saw an expansion team. The last expansion team, of course, being the Tampa Bay Rays and
Arizona Diamondbacks.
And the Arizona Diamondbacks,
both
in 98. We're going to be getting up there to almost 30 years without an expansion team. That's a really long time,
and
considering...
even a relocation, the Nationals in 04.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you think about it, that's a long time given baseball history, because you had the Brewers and I think it was the Astros in the 60s, right? The 70s introduced some more teams. And then, of course, in the 90s, you had the Rockies came in. You had the... who was the other AL team that was introduced with the Rockies? I don't even remember who it was. The Mariners were around there, weren't they? They were back in the 80s.
93. The Rockies were 93. The Angels were not 93.
They were back in the 80s as well, or 70s.
The Angels were 76.
76, yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Throughout baseball history, we have a long history of this. But the two cities that I heard big, of course, were Portland, Oregon, and San Antonio, Texas. So, guys, here's what I'm going to ask you here in the last little bit of 10 minutes we have. If we do go ahead and assume that 2 expansion teams are coming and there's going to be 32 teams in the MLB, that would mean an expansion draft. Now, expansion drafts are very interesting. It's not something we've seen in a very long time. The rules, of course, you get to protect 15 players in the first round. Each team gets to protect 15 players. Anyone with 10 and 5 trading rights or no trade clause has to be protected. And also, you get to protect an additional, I believe, 3 players in the second round. Now, that's a lot of players to go ahead and name here, so I'm not going to ask you to do that. But I do want to say, let's go around to some of the more interesting teams and say, if there was an expansion draft right now, Who do you think, if you were the GM of that team, the team would protect? And I think it's good enough to start. Let's start with our going into the teams that we follow the most. James, why don't you give us the Red Sox and also the Nationals, since you have a good knowledge of both there?
For the 5 players?
Who, if you were the GM of both those teams, what 5 would you pick? And also keep in mind, if there's anyone with a no-trade clause or 10-5 rights,
Right.
they have to stay.
Okay, well, right now as the Red Sox roster is currently constructed,
Correct.
we don't know if Mookie's going to be there or not. Mookie obviously won.
Mhm.
Rafael Devers.
Of course.
Xander Bogaerts.
Yes,
Then it gets interesting
it does.
because you have J.D. Martinez only guaranteed 1 more year.
Mhm.
One of the best hitters in baseball. You have Chris Sale. You have David Price. You have Andrew Benintendi. So I think out of it's going to come from those 4. I think you'd go.
I feel like you'd have to do Benintendi as well.
I was going to say Benintendi's got to be your pick.
I feel like Benintendi and J.D.
Okay.
Because Price is obviously getting up there, and you really don't know the health concerns with Sale.
Yes, I agree with
But
that.
there would be more than 5 players protected. So
Yeah.
but like in a real.
This is a
situation.
hypothetical.
Right,
In a
right.
real situation,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get a lot of them, and that's why
But
the
I think
expansion teams.
right going into this year, you'd pick Benintendi because don't give up on him yet.
Of course,
Don't give up on
I
him
wouldn't
yet.
do that either.
I think
And
he's
then-
going to have a bounce back season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's in line for a bounce back season. Then 5 for the Nationals.
Sure,
Strasburg, he's got a no trade clause.
Of course.
Scherzer, doesn't he have a personal trade clause?
I
Yes,
believe he
he
does.
does.
Yes.
Okay, Strasburg, Scherzer, Juan Soto.
Wow, that's a hard one.
I know, right? Trey Turner,
Okay.
and I mean, shortstop's an important position. You got to
Yes.
stay strong up the middle. And what would the last one be?
Would you do Robles or would you do someone else?
I'm really deciding between Robles or Corbin.
Or Corbin? Yeah, that's
To
another
keep that
good one.
rotation strong.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'll go with Robles.
Okay.
I'll go with Robles. Yeah.
Very fair. Robbie, how would you give us your picks for the Yankees? If you were the GM and you were told you could keep 5 players, what 5 are you protecting?
The first pick's probably my easiest one is Gleyber Torres.
Yeah, absolute
Too much
stud.
value, 23 years old. I think he's a perennial.
Wait,
MVP.
Gleyber Torres is only 23 years old?
You have to keep Cole.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
you
you
do.
do? Yes, yes.
Cole has no trade clause. Has to be him.
Yes, I'm keeping Cole as number 2. I'm going to keep Aaron Judge.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
This one's going to surprise you. I'm picking Gary Sanchez.
Okay.
I think that
wow.
I think that the catching position in baseball right now
Very weak.
It's very weak, and Sanchez may not be the best catcher in baseball because he's clearly not. He's probably the 5th best catcher in baseball or so. But it's such a weak position. I think that you need that kind of a piece.
When's he a free agent?
He's got 3 years?
3 more years.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. If
So that's number 4. Who's number 5 for you?
It's got to be a reliever, right?
Probably. Do like a Chapman or a...
I was thinking Chapman,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm going to go with Chapman.
Go with
I was
Chapman.
debating
He's too
between him
valuable.
I was debating between him and DJ LeMahieu. I think
Yeah.
that LeMahieu is so valuable to the offense. However, LeMahieu is a free agent at the end of next season, and he is 32 years old, so I'm going with Chapman as my 5th guy.
Very fair.
Now Andrew's got 5
All
for
right.
the Phillies.
First one for the Phillies obviously has to be Bryce Harper because he has a no trade clause. I would protect him either way anyway. Of course, Aaron Nola. I'm not letting him go anywhere. He'd be number 2. Number 3, of course, then I would go with has to be Rhys Hoskins. The man absolutely tore it up in the first half last year. Had a very bad second half, but he's too talented of a player to just give up on like that. He'd be number 3.
Can I touch on him after you finish?
Absolutely,
Okay.
sure. Number 4, I would probably have to go with number 4 for Scott Kingery. Saw a lot of good flashes of him last year because he had, a very good first half. It kind of fell apart in the second half, but he showed flashes of why he was such a top prospect and why we gave him that extension before he reached the majors in 2018. And also, so versatile. Can play almost every infield position. He's played second, short, third, and every outfield position already. Very good bat off the bench. Super utility role, as Gabe Kapler used to like to say. And the 5th and foremost, without question, is the best catcher in baseball, Mr. JT Realmuto.
Did you say Nola? I must have
Yes,
just-
Aaron
okay,
Nola's number
okay.
2. Yeah.
Kind of surprised you didn't put Zach Wheeler on there, though.
I did not put Zach Wheeler on there, and that was tough for me. I was considering between him and Scott Kingery. The only reason I put Kingery over there is because I have a lot of faith in Scott Kingery. I always have my entire life watching him.
Nola also hasn't done anything with the Phillies. I mean, Wheeler hasn't done anything with the
And-
Phillies.
yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
Saying, I'm not
Yeah.
saying he's going to be bad, but
No,
I'm just
no,
saying,
no,
like,
exactly.
Like,
He hasn't
could
even
go out-
started yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So that's my main thing there.
Touching on Hoskins, he
Yeah,
had
yeah,
a-
yeah.
Like there's no denying that he had a great 17 and a solid 18, but he really had a horrible second half. I mean, his average got down to below 230.
He had,
But, like, no, seriously,
yeah.
what do you think about him going into this year? Because if he struggles again for that much of an extended period of time, like how can you trust him as a middle of the order hitter in the major leagues?
Here's the thing with Rhys
Serious
Hoskins.
question, though.
No,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree, and it is very concerning. Watching him over that month and a half period last year, where he just looked absolutely miserable up there, it was very hard to do. But here's my thing with Rhys Hoskins. Number 1, he's been working insanely hard this offseason. Matt Gale published a fantastic article the other day in The Athletic about Rhys Hoskins. He talked to him personally about what he's been doing this offseason, changing his hitting approach and everything like that. That's one thing that I really think is going to help with him, and also being under a new hitting coach, Matt Dillon, who helped a lot of the Nationals, I believe, as well as the assistant hitting coach. The second thing with Rhys Hoskins is Hoskins has always been a streaky hitter. Now, his streak last year was a lot longer than it normally is when he slides a little bit. But when he is on, we have seen what he can do when he's on. He had a stretch where he hit 10 home runs in a row out of the second half in 2018, right after the home run derby that he participated in. We saw his stretch when he was called up in 2017 when he blasted 17 home runs in his first 32 games. And we saw in the first half where he had an on-base percentage close to 400 and was just absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. And did bounce back at the end of the season to show some power. But here's my main thing with Hoskins, which is why I'm not concerned yet. Throughout his entire struggles last year, where he was just... Not only did he have a very good batting average on ball and play, I still believe he was also hitting it very hard. His on-base percentages did not suffer. He finished baseball last year, and I don't know if you guys know this, he had the second most walks in all of baseball behind only Alex Bregman. He still continued to get on base. He has a fantastic eye. His on-base percentage was still around 380 through his entire slump. And because of that, and because of his eye, I trust Rhys Hoskins' eye more than anyone on that team, even Bryce Harper. I think he's going to be absolutely fine. He just needs to figure out a little bit with his bat and swinging at certain pitches still. But I think Rhys Hoskins is going to be absolutely fine this year. He's too talented of a player to suffer. So that's my thought on Hoskins. A couple other teams for the expansion thing, though, because I think there's a couple interesting ones out there that would be hard to decide if you're the GM. So I'm just going to throw one out there. Robbie, give me your picks if you are looking at the San Diego Padres in an expansion draft and protecting 5 players.
Who would I protect on the Padres?
Yes, I think there's a lot of interesting picks there.
Yeah, I would agree. My first one's got to be Manny Machado. I think Machado's an easy pick. The rest of his contract, I think that you got to keep him. I think he also has a no trade clause on his contract.
He has no. He might have a partial one, but he has an opt out.
Okay,
I know.
Okay.
I would still protect Machado.
I'm going to protect Chris Paddock. I think that you definitely would need to protect somebody in your rotation.
He was fantastic
last
year.
The rotation is really important
For a good part of it, yeah.
I'm protecting Kirby Yates. I think
you have to. Best closer in baseball last year, I'd say.
Yeah, bullpen pieces are very important to me. An easy one. Fernando Tatis.
I was waiting for that one.
I forgot about Tatis. My bad.
Yeah.
Definitely protecting him. And
of course, Eric Hosmer, right?
I think it'd be a blessing if Hosmer was gone because that contract's that atrocious.
Yeah.
Then my last pick, I'd have to go with... Is there an obvious one I'm forgetting?
I don't think there's an obvious one. This is why this is interesting.
Yeah.
It's a 5th spot where I feel could go a couple different ways.
A lot of people are really high on Manuel Margot. And maybe Margot.
Still him?
Can I say who I'd pick?
Yeah, who'd be your
sure
5th?
Who my 5th guy is.
He's a guy who hasn't even played a major league game yet.
Who's that?
Mackenzie Gore.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
fair.
fair. That's very fair.
But
Because it's anyone on the 40-man roster, I believe.
Honestly, I'm going to be honest, though. I really don't think Manuel Margot's going to live up to the hype. I don't think that he's shown that he can.
He would have already lived up to it.
Yeah.
Hasn't shown that he can hit yet. Yes, he can run, and yes, his arm is slightly above average, but that's not enough.
That's very fair. Yeah, I think Margot was going to do something. He would have done it by now already. James, I'm going to give you another interesting one. How about the Cleveland Indians? A lot of talent there.
Lindor.
Of course.
See, I'm torn about Jose Ramirez because he really did not have a good first half last year at all, and I think he's on the decline.
He always starts out slow, by the way.
He does. So you're not sure about Ramirez?
I'm not sure about Ramirez. Shane Bieber.
Yeah.
Beebster's going to be one of the best pitchers in the league this year. He had a really good second half last year.
So good.
He came into his own after winning the All-Star Game MVP. I know I'm missing Clevenger. I knew I was, but we don't know if he's going to be there though. That's the thing.
That's
but right now, yes.
As of now, yes.
Clevenger.
What do you think about Brad Hand?
How many years of control does he have left?
2.
He has 2 more left.
Yeah, I'll keep Brad Hand as my 4th.
Okay.
Naquin?
No. He's not even on them
not
anymore, is he?
No,
yeah,
he is.
He's been up and down.
Oh, I'm thinking of Lonnie Chisenhall all the time with the Pirates. I'm sorry.
Naquin's been up and down.
Yeah.
Jose Ramirez.
Yeah, I think it's right.
I was
going to
say, outside of the 4 guys, there really isn't. I mean, you got to go.
There's not like an obvious choice, right?
Of course. All right, final round here, the expansion draft. What do you guys think? Give me a team here, Robbie.
Houston Astros.
Can we
all give
I was waiting
ours
for
for the
that
Astros?
one. We can all give ours for the Astros. I think the Astros are a really good one because that's a team where you get 5 and you're still losing a lot. All right.
That's right.
Bregman's number 1 without a question. I know Verlander is up there, but he just won the Cy Young. He's so good. I'd still take Verlander. Springer without question. Altuve without question. Now it becomes really hard.
I think. Are those your 4?
Yes.
I think those are everyone's 4, right?
My 4 would be Bregman, Verlander, Springer, and Altuve.
That's everyone's 4 right there. The 5th guy's where we're going to vary. Who's your 5th?
Got to have that bullpen piece. Roberto
Ozuna.
24-year-old closer. Remember that.
All right.
Who's yours?
My 5th would probably have to be... Oh, my goodness. That's really tough. I'm not doing Correa. I don't think he's valuable enough.
I don't
think Correa. And with that just leaves... Oh, man.
Greinke?
It's either Greinke just because he was really good after they acquired him, or even a guy like Brantley. Brantley was really good last year.
Yeah, Michael Brantley had
Yeah.
He's got 1 year left.
He does, but he was so good. He could be the difference if for them making a World Series.
I think mine is going to really surprise you guys.
What's that?
Kyle Tucker.
Going with the younger out there
Okay.
with Kyle Tucker. Okay.
I mean, he's got a lot of club control left, and with a team that's like right now in flux with a lot of potential free agencies coming up, Tucker's got 5 years club control.
My
left.
thing, though,
You know
is-
what's interesting though? Before you say that, Rob, you know who none of us protected there?
Forrest
Yordan
Whitley?
Alvarez.
You were down.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a big bat right there.
Because like you look at what happened in the postseason.
Yeah, he was terrible.
It was just like Bellinger in the 2017 postseason.
Well, he was good.
His
He was
hole
good
got
in the World
his holes
Series.
Got exposed.
Yes.
He was good in the World Series, though.
No.
Bellinger
second
was
half
okay.
of the series. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's got to make adjustments to be the type of player he was this year for the years to come. But I think he's able to do that. He was a very talented player.
Yeah.
Robbie, you were going to say something beforehand?
So
before we
I was
talked about
gonna say
Yordan
I'm
Alvarez?
Fifth.
Who's my fifth?
Yeah.
I said my fifth.
Who?
It was Michael Brantley.
Oh, Michael Brantley.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
that was
I
fifth.
said
Okay.
I said Ozuna just because I think that if you take him out of the bullpen, I think that Astros.
You think he'd
bullpen's
be
really
snatched
weak.
up by a
I
team
think
immediately?
He'd be snatched up.
Yeah,
I think that the bullpen would be
very
really
talented
weak.
bullpen piece. So, was that what you were going to say about
Yeah.
Ozuna there? Okay, excellent. Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair point. He's a guy that would easily be taken on expansion draft trade. So will be interesting to see. Of course, it probably won't be 3-4 years until we see a potential expansion team. But whether it be Portland, whether it be San Antonio, whether it be out of the country in Mexico City or back to Montreal, it will be very cool to see where the 31st and 32nd MLT teams land. And also something that we did not talk about, very interesting to see how the divisions are changed up, because at that point you'd almost have to go into 4 divisions in each league. You'd have to split it up by 4.
How realistic is it though of getting an expansion team? 'Cause
I
haven't
think
heard
it's
much
very
talk about
realistic
this.
because, look, like I said, it hasn't happened in a very long time, and it gives people in all those areas of the country and also out of the country more access to the sport. You're talking about ratings in baseball. Think about it. A lot of people who live in, say, like Charlotte was a really good one because there's people who live in the middle of the South. Think about it. You have the Braves on one end in Atlanta, and you have the Cardinals in the Midwest. If you're in one of those states, South Dakota, North Dakota, and in the Midwest there, or in South Carolina, North Carolina, places like that, you have what, the college baseball teams, but you don't have a baseball team that's close enough for you to drive to like that. You know what I mean? It's less engaging, and that would give teams like that, especially like in Portland. Where are you going to go in Portland? And then San Antonio is the one that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because you do have the Astros and you have the Rangers there. And Montreal, I don't think is an important team. And Mexico City, all the players would probably be shot and mugged on their way to the stadium. But besides that,
One thing I will say though that I think is underrated about the ratings approval, I think that Manfred's done a really good job with playing teams like the Yankees in London, and now you got
and they're going to be
Idaho
playing
next
in
year.
that Field of Dreams game
Yeah,
this year,
in
right, with the White
Idaho it
Sox.
is.
Iowa, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That is really
I
cool.
think I don't think that's being talked about enough. I think that's genius on Manfred's part.
I think that's going to be very cool to see. They built that whole field. For any of you who don't know, based on the movie Field of Dreams, they built an entire field replicating of that. That's in the middle of a cornfield, actually, right? In the middle of Idaho.
And
they're going to play
in
there, the
movie-
White Sox and
in
Yankees.
the movie, the Yankees and White Sox are playing.
So that's very
Yeah.
cool they're doing. That's going to be, I can't even imagine what tickets are going to be to get to that. That's going to be absolutely crazy because I think the stadium only seats something like
300.
300.
No,
Yeah.
no.
No, that can't be.
They're building an 8,500 seat
Okay.
stadium.
Still,
like-
8,500 is not a lot for a baseball game.
No, it's not. But it's like it's gonna be like behind, like on the other side of the real Field of Dreams because
Yes.
I think they're cutting out of the other cornfields, and then you're gonna be able to see the cornfields through the walls.
Yeah.
Are they
that sounds
going to
about
wait?
right.
Are they going to build the farmhouses like as a replica?
I don't think they're
I don't
doing
think
that.
so.
That
no.
would be pretty cool.
That
if
would
they
be
did
pretty
that.
cool. I don't think they're going that far though. It'll be cool to see. I believe that's in August this year, right?
Yeah, August 13th.
That will be very cool to
I'm
see
so pumped.
for the Yankees and White Sox to
Hopefully
play their
Garrett Cole's
exhibition game
pitching.
there. Actually, it's not an
That'd be
exhibition game. It's a regular season game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's regular season.
Very cool, very cool. So with that said, that's pretty much going to wrap up everything we got for you tonight here on Nation's Pastime and Nation's Capital. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We had a fantastic show today. Thank you to all the callers as well. 3 callers today. Really great to see the involvement from some of you guys who listen. Again, if you ever want to call in, 202-319-5106.
Callers
we
are
love,
always welcome.
They really are. We love hearing your guys' thoughts. We love any questions you guys want to pose, anything you want to talk about. Even tonight, like we said, the second week in a row, we've got a very interesting tidbit about some financial fraud and baseball players throughout history. Anything like that. Anything baseball related, call in. We'd love to talk to you about it with you guys. But with that said, I've been your host, Andrew Snaith, here with my co-hosts, Robbie Cruz and James Higgins. Have a fantastic rest of your evening, and make sure to go ahead and follow our Twitter at NatPastimeCap for the shows posted the next day in podcast form. And with that said, once again, have a fantastic night.